All right, welcome back to our
Unfortunately.
budget workshop, whatever we got going on here. Mr. Donaldson, I understand you have figured out all the little problems and are ready to let us know.
Well, I have a proposal, but during the break, we had discussions about the transportation disadvantaged program and their reductions in how to help fulfill the continuing the service that they provide. Commissioner Campy, I know, came and we talked a bit about it, and also with Stephanie about where in the budget are areas that we can find, and we do have a lean budget, and it is hard to find anything that's even 250,000. So a recommendation is that we increase the TD budget by 150,000 from general fund. And that when we do our fund balance in the mid-year, that we have an opportunity to look at perhaps funding the rest of it. In the meantime, I know we'll also have some discussions about just transportation and Marty and other things between now and February to kind of have a better chance to have a bigger picture discussion. So that is the recommendation, is a 150,000 increase that would go into the MPO's budget for transportation disadvantage and public works. And we would take it from, we just increase our general fund contribution by 150,000.
And look at fund balance when we look at that first of the year.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? So we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion. Yes, sir.
Are we going to let them know?
Yes,
Okay, great, thank you.
absolutely.
Motion passed unanimously. Okay. Moving on to non-departmental tentative budget.
So last but not least is the non-departmental FY25 tentative budget. And what is non-departmental? It's exactly what it sounds like. It includes all revenues and expenditures that are either intrinsically countywide and or not assigned to any specific county department. You'll see things such as our annual audits for the countywide, our other post-employment benefits, actuarials, indirect costs, grant writing, investments, and so on. It's broken up into a few different programs. So you have the general non-departmental, risk management, economic development, the grants and aids and service contracts, debt service, budgeted transfers, and reserves. So just looking at non-departmental as a whole, it can be a little overwhelming because it contains so much components of the county that can't really be specified. But this is the breakdown of non-departmental where the majority of it resides in the reserves. So in the particular non-departmental program, you're going to see things such as the payments to the county and city CRAs, your FPL tangible personal property grant, our wellness clinic and indirect costs, our parks MSTU indirect cost, and then PTO and leave payout. Lesser programs include the economic development, debt service, risk management, and budgeted transfers. Economic development, there is a slight increase this year of $15,000 based on the board-approved BDB contract just the past few meetings ago. Our debt service, it's decreased based on the principal and interest that's due each year for the board-approved bonds, loans, and capital leases. Risk management is an increase due to both our health insurance and property insurance premiums, which are the health insurance are expected to go just under 5% increase. And then budgeted transfers, which are a little confusing because they're just a government accounting procedure. They just vary annually depending on the necessity to move dollars in and out between funds just for accounting purposes. So with the FY25 tentative budget for grants and aids, everything is exactly the same dollars as the previous year. We have contracted services that are the organizations that provide direct services to us, grants to governmental agencies, grants to private organizations, and other aid to organizations, and I'll break them down a little bit. So for contracted services, no changes from the FY24 adopted budget. The Humane Society for the service they provide via contract. our Treasure Coast Wildlife and Historical Society, I think it's management agreement that we have with Historical Society, and then the Life Builders of the Treasure Coast.
What's that?
That is a grant agreement with Diamond Liddy's office to provide, I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but she provides a $10,000 grant for, I don't know exactly, I'm sorry.
It helps with the transition of those that qualified who get it right, in the court system to help people transition back into society.
Okay.
It's a good program that he's been doing for a number of
Two
years.
years ago and before that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. She also said we can color on her cell phone if she
I was
wants.
going to say, she's probably.
Yeah, that's a.
So continuing the program grants and aids, we have a lot of our state statute mandated and local ordinance mandated items such as the county indigent hospitalizations, Medicaid hospitals, and then the health department, New Horizons, as well as the immunization program at the health department, the Healthcare Responsibility Act, Children's Home Society, and then indigent medicine.
Could you say again that a majority of those that are not discretionary, they're paid for by law?
Almost every single one of those, we have an unfunded mandate or state statute to provide those services or local ordinances that mandate those.
Thank you.
The grants and aids, grants to private organizations, we've seen this list year over year, and this represents no changes from last year's adopted budget.
Was Special Olympics supposed to be a recurring item?
Yeah, but I believe, I wasn't told otherwise, so I believe so.
Time.
No.
Anybody else think that it was?
Other aid to organizations, the Dory Slosberg, which is a fee-funded item in the court system to provide driving school through the Martin County School District, as well as the Port Salerno Fishing Dock Authority lease. No changes with that. And then finally, the biggest part of the non-departmental budget is our reserves. These reserves represent fully funding our restricted reserve requirement in the general fund, as well as other various reserves in the county funds for future capital outlay, contingencies, and long-term care.
Can you go
Can we-
back?
I was going to say, can you go back a second? Go first.
I've heard some folks talking about the fact that our reserves wouldn't really take us that far. Can you give us sort of a little quick tutorial on how the reserves work? And you don't traditionally calculate them by how many days we would be able to run the government. Can you share a little of that?
Right, so we have a restricted reserve policy that is one of the best practices for the Government Finance Officers Association to require a 10% restricted reserve in just the general fund operations, but those aren't the only reserves we have. Each funding type has its own type of reserve in order to meet any kind of catastrophic needs, as well as we have a disaster fund reserve that is not reflected in this because, well, it's hurricane season and I can't really estimate what I might need or not need in the middle of hurricane season, but that's an additional about $9 million. It is best practice to keep 10%. You don't want to have too much reserves and then it looks like you're amassing large fortunes of money. But you want a responsible reserve in order to take care of, if everything stops for 30 to 60 days, you have that. You'll see those types of reserves even from the building department fund, as well as even down to small funds such as the tourism fund in the event of an economic downturn. But realistically speaking, if all else fails and we collect nothing and society is, I guess, in a nuclear event, we would be okay
Well,
Good
financially.
enough.
financially,
Good to know.
Yeah,
financially speaking.
it's important to note that your capital program, they're based on grants. We would there's a lot of things you put those on hold. So there's gas tax assigned to various projects that we would shift to be able to use on road repairs. Utilities has funds that we could do debris management before FEMA funds kick in, things like that. So our funds are able to get us bridges until those other state or federal funds kick in to be able to help you deal with the problem. So there's the general fund reserve, and then and I think a big part of your action is you reprioritize what you're working on when something catastrophic happens, and all the money you assigned, let's say till next year, saving up for a project, you spend this year on your disaster cleanup. That's a big part of how you strategically manage for unintended events.
And I will say, to add to that, our recoupment of all of those disaster funds has been actually very good on recoupment. So we're floating it for not a very long time anymore, it seems. It seems to be quicker than it used to,
Because we're good at what we do.
because we're good at what we do.
I was going to say, part of that is I remember after one of the hurricanes, even how you picked up vegetative waste and what trucks and technique you used. If you did it incorrectly, you got zero reimbursement. And if you went through the more difficult way of understanding how things had to happen, like you're in panic mode because it's a hurricane and people rush out to do stuff, we don't do that. We did it the proper way so that when it came time to get FEMA reimbursement, I think we were almost 100%. When other counties, we heard from commissioners that didn't do it the right way, got nothing back. So we do it right.
The disaster response has become its own business type. I think if you go back in the beginning of my career, which was a while ago, the government was very generous in how you could get reimbursed. Today, it's as much about your accounting and finance and documentation, because quite frankly, the federal government, everybody is tighter on funds, and they want you to account for it, and that it's become its own business.
And that's all I have for non-departmental, so unless there's any questions.
Move tentative approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So now we've reached the end where we'll do the tentative, set the tentative millage rate. So now with the change that we have discussed for the $150,000 to be added to our general fund. That is requiring a countywide millage rate of 6.5776. And then your separate fire, parks, stormwater, and road MSTUs to be set at 2.6677, Parks and Rec at 0.1596, stormwater at 0.2771, road maintenance at 0.3077 for our total MSTUs at 3.4121. So our total millage countywide and MSTU would be set at 9.9896, representing a negative 0.625% increase.
Yeah.
Decrease. Sorry. And then we have discussed our commission district MSTUs previously. And last but not least, our little special district, Hutchison Island, it's maintaining the same dollars as the previous year, which is also showing a reduction of 8.80% with a millage rate of 0.1805. It's a lot of numbers.
Mine's down to 0.9.
So I could entertain a motion for countywide and separate MSTUs, and that would be most helpful.
Do you have, so what do you want to read? What,
Set the tentative millage rates as presented,
Decrease.
that's it?
as a decrease.
I
Yes.
mean, I don't have to read off anything
Nope,
specific.
not this time.
Okay, I would move that we set the tentative millage rate as presented throughout the morning and with the correction to the transportation disadvantaged funding that was added to the budget, which gets us to a which one you want, which two numbers?
0.576.
Great, okay, 6.5776 with an overall reduction of 0.366%.
That's for
That's
the general fund countywide, yes.
Do you want them separate, or do you want them?
Yeah, we could do it separate, that's fine.
So I'd make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
I would move the municipal service taxing units, MSTUs, for a total millage rate of 3.4121, right?
Correct,
With a reduction of 1.117.
correct.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries
You
unanimously.
want the total?
Nope, just the Hutchinson Island.
Hutchinson Island.
Right here.
Okay. Special District A61 Hutchinson Island, millage to be set at, tentative millage to be set at 0.1805 with a reduction of 8.8%.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion
Steph-
carries unanimously.
The Commission District MSTUs were.
I already got an approval with the discussing the
Okay.
Commission MSTU. So we've come to our close. We've currently set our tentative millage rate, so OMB will then transmit these rates to the property appraiser's office by August 4th. The next steps are the trim notices are going to be mailed from the property appraiser's office to the property owners, and I believe that the property appraiser will be speaking to the trim process on August 6th. We'll have our first public hearing on these millage rates on September 10th, 2024 at 5:05 PM. And then we'll have our final adoption of these millage rates, if nothing changes, on September 24th, 2024 at 5:05 PM. And with that, I am complete, and I want to thank my little staff of 11 for working so hard these months, the department heads for dealing with me this year, my first go-round as the director, and then for county administration, the county commission for giving me such nice, clear direction.
Great job.
You did a wonderful job, and I tell you, for some reason, I understood the presentation wonderfully.
That's-
That whole way you laid it out.
It warms my heart
Perfect.
to hear that, my icy cold heart.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I also want to thank Ms. Murley and her staff. You did a terrific job. This is a great, understandable, lean budget. And also want to thank our department heads for also responding to their direction, which is a flat budget. And I think it's remarkable that with all the inflation that we're having, that of the board's 1,137 positions, we added one, and it was in IT. That shows remarkable conservative restraint. So I want to thank everybody for their doing their part.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I have.
What you got?
Budget workshop done.
Lost my cheat sheet, so I guess we're down to 5:05 public comment. Let's do that. Anybody want to do 5:05 public comment? Well, there's nothing there.
There you go.
Oh. Seeing no comment, do we have any commission comment? Yes, sir.
Something I was going to bring up this morning, and I had a note, and I glossed over the note. 2 weeks ago, we had an individual in Martin County that was hit and killed bicycling across one of our causeways. I happened to go, I went to the service for Mr. Drummond. There were probably 300 people there. His best friend growing up did a remarkable job. His daughters did a remarkable job and actually told more about him than I certainly ever knew about him. And it sort of occurred to me, with that kind of outpouring of the community for an individual that was a part of our community that somewhat was maybe under the radar screen, was something amazing to see. And so, I don't know if you're all interested, but I thought maybe, and I have not talked to the family at all about what I'm going to ask you all, but maybe we could correspond or send a correspondence to FDOT to see if there wasn't some way that maybe we could name that portion of the bike lane or something going across the bridge as maybe the Drummond bike lane or something like that that would recognize him, but also kind of put it in perspective for our community that he played a much more involved role in our community than I think I ever knew, but certainly learned a lot at his service. So I just throw that out there for a thought.
I think that's a great idea. He's a, I try to be careful not to
I know.
constantly be the guy who's giving obituaries up here, but certain people in our community deserve that recognition from all of us, and Martin Drummond was absolutely one of them.
So if it's okay, if the chair could, maybe staff could put a letter together to FDOT to inquire as to the desire, and maybe we could put a sign up on the bridge or something for that section of that bike lane, because he biked it, from what I understand, like every day.
It's probably one of the most beautiful celebration of lives I've ever seen.
It was really something. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
That's all.
I'm good. You're good.
Done.
Good. Everybody else is good. All is good. We are adjourned.